Social media was supposed to connect us. It was supposed to be this great mechanism that would allow thoughtful debate so the best ideas could rise to the top, but we all saw that fail. Instead, it's built echo chambers, it's amplified extreme voices, and it's given all the attention to just a few people. But a new study adds a twist to all of this. It shows that when we try to fix our feeds to make those problems go away, we often end up making them worse. The thing about social media is that everybody loves to pile on and complain about how it's ruined journalism and politics and mental health and all the other things, myself included. But you don't often come across someone with a solution. My favorite science story this week is a study that looks at 6 possible fixes for social media. And what they found was really interesting. Now, there's an important caveat on this paper. It's a preprint, which means it hasn't been through peer review yet. So please bear that in mind. It comes from a pair of researchers at the University of Amsterdam. Now, they focus on 3 problems with social media. One is the echo chamber effect. That's the phenomenon where your feed is overwhelmingly filled with content with which you agree. For example, my feed is full of content that is very pro bike lanes. I almost never see anything that paints cyclists in a bad light. The second is the amplification of extreme viewpoints. There are people who care a lot more about bike lanes than I do, and they're the people in my feed. So when the subject of bike lanes comes up, it's not somebody with a subtle point about it. It's someone in a screaming match with someone in a car. The third is that very few voices get almost all the attention on social media. If I make a post about bike lanes, it gets no traction, but my feed gets repeated posts from the same individuals. So to do this study, the researchers made a simulated social media network. And here's how it worked. Their social media network has 500 users in it, but they're not humans. Each of them is an agent powered by ChatGPT. So each of these 500 users is created with a bio. They have some example social media posts that they would have written, and they were given a handful of accounts to follow to start. And this is done for each of the 500 different individuals in the simulation. They all have their own personalities, they have different politics, they have different family dynamics, different ages, different education levels, all that stuff. And now here's how the simulation worked. A user saw 10 social media posts, 5 from people they followed, 5 from the most popular posts on the whole network. These are the ones that are reposted the most by the other 499 users. And alongside those 10 social media posts, the users also saw 10 totally random news stories. And then the user had a choice. They could either write their own post about anything they wanted, or they could repost something that they'd seen on social media, or they could do nothing. And if they reposted someone who they didn't already follow, they got the option to follow that person. Now, all 500 users did that 10,000 times for this simulation. So huge numbers of choices being made. And the question was, would this recreate the 3 problems we see in real social media? A lot of people think the reason those problems happen with real social media is individualized algorithms, but these algorithms weren't individualized. Those 5 most popular tweets were the same for everyone. And here's what they got. All 3 problems did appear in the simulation. Now, this comes with numbers that I'm not going to get too far into, but the echo chamber effect was high. The E1 was negative 0.84. The biggest they can get is negative 1, so that was like 84% of the way there. So there was a huge echo chamber effect in their simulated data. The extremism, it looks smaller because I'm putting it on the same axis, but this is notable. These correlation coefficients mean that an extreme post is 9% more likely to get reposted, and an extreme user is 11% more likely to be followed compared to a less extreme user. And in terms of the problem where only a few speakers get all the attention, that was definitely true here too. These Gini numbers mean that depending on whether you measure users or individual posts, somewhere between 80% and 90% of the content going through this network was coming from just 10% of the users. Now, I'm about to tell you about the 6 different fixes that they tried in the study, but based on what I've already shown you, the researchers make the conclusion that the problems with social media that all of us hate so much, echo chambers, extremism, and that very few people get all the posts, those are inherent properties of social media networks. They're unavoidable. It doesn't matter which one you're using, it's always going to happen. They don't require individualized algorithms. They just occur. So that, I think, is a big thing to keep in mind. I don't care which social media network you're on, this is a problem for you and me. Okay, fixes. The thing I like about this paper is that they try these different fixes to see if they help. Now, To compare these, instead of sticking with this axis where everything was all different, I'm going to just scale everything to 100%. So if it's better, it'll be lower than 100%. And if it's worse, it'll be more than 100%. The first idea they tried is when I'm following someone, just show me their latest post, not their most viral post. And Twitter used to do this. I remember when Twitter used to show chronological feeds of people that I followed. So I'd go on Twitter and I would just see whatever people posted most recently. But then all of a sudden they switched it. So I was seeing the most viral stuff that people in my feed had shown. And I didn't like that. Well, here's what happens when you go back to the old way it used to be. Extremism skyrockets. It more than doubles. The silver lining is that more people are getting their content seen, but clearly overall, this is a bad choice. So I was wrong to criticize Twitter when they made that change back in the day. It's better when they show viral content from the people I follow, not just the stuff they posted more recently. That's interesting. Ideas 2 and 3 are about having the social media network boost stuff that it wouldn't normally boost just to see if that helps. So here's one. Instead of boosting stuff that's viral, boost the stuff that's least viral. Obviously, this is something no real social media network is ever going to do in real life, but in a simulation, they can do this. It has a pretty weak effect. It lowers the echo chamber issue a tiny bit, and it reduces the few voices problem a bit, but it's not very effective overall. Another idea is to boost extreme viewpoints, but not ones that the viewer agrees with. Boost stuff that's extreme and that the user disagrees with, like fill Dan Riskin's feed with truck drivers who try to hit cyclists. Well, it turns out that approach helps reduce the amount of extreme stuff that's circulating online, since nobody wants to repost stuff that they disagree with, but it doesn't really help. And again, this is something that no real social media network would ever do. The next two ideas were about hiding information from the users, information like how popular a post is, or like, how many likes it's gotten, or hiding the bio of the person whose content they're looking at. These both decrease extremism a little bit, but not much. Now, their last idea was a really good one. And when I first read about this, I was super hopeful that this would solve the problem. So here's their thinking. If the problem with social media is we only ever see extreme viewpoints, so we never have empathy or intelligent conversation, what happens if there's an algorithm that boosts stuff based on empathy and intelligent conversation? Lo and behold, this one does show some potential, but only really in one variable. It reduces extremism, so that's great. It reduces the echo chamber a tiny bit, but not much. And it actually makes things worse in terms of the problem of just a few voices getting all the attention. But overall, this is easily the best of the 6 ideas. Still far from perfect. What we'd like to see is all those yellow bars all the way down at 0. We're very far from that, but this is at least a good start. And listen, I'll just say it again. This has not been through peer review. There are no statistical analyses, and this whole thing hinges on the assumption that 500 AI agents are a realistic stand-in for millions of humans. Is that true? Don't know. But for now, the take-home is that there's no simple algorithmic tweak that can solve the problems that are inherent to social media. So if you want to know what's happening in the world, social media is not your friend. Read a local newspaper, watch the local news, seek out content yourself. And hey, if you want great science content, you should sign up for my weekly newsletter. It's called The Bat Signal. It comes out once a week. It's free. This story was just one of 5 that I sent out to my readers this week. Just go to followthebatsignal.com.